Now she is the head of Rappler, a social news network. Social network.
Network. You don't pronounce
a social
the T.
news network where stories inspire community engagement and digitally fueled actions for social change.
This morning, she will talk about technopreneurship in the Philippines, understanding social media and big data. Kilala nyo ba to? Ooh.
Excited na ba kayo?
You are very, very, very lucky this morning because,
So ladies and gentlemen, please, let's all welcome the CEO of Rappler,
Miss Maria Ressa!
Good morning. Wow, there is a lot of you there. Ay, nako. Okay, so let's start. I just want to quickly go through this and then hopefully take questions. You can chat with me on Twitter or on Facebook. Let's start with what Joey said earlier, which is you have to have imagination, right? I'm going to add two other words to imagination. Actually, he said inspiration. So the second word is imagination. You have to be able to imagine because the world you see today is not the world you're going to grow up in. Just like I couldn't imagine your world today when I was in your seat, when I was your age. I was a journalist before many of you were born. So I couldn't have imagined the state of where we would be today. The third word is a tough word, and that's where many of us can fail. That third word is courage. So let me take you through. For me, the presentation I want to give you is simple. It's technology and you. How does technology affect you? You live it, but you may not know it. And here's the other part that's fascinating about this time. Your generation is among the first to actually live through your digital natives. You will be working for people who know less than you do. For people like me, I call myself a digital immigrant, right? Immigrant lang kami, natives kayo. So you will actually know more than your bosses. You will, the things you know, the things you grew up with, yung Twitter nyo, yung Facebook nyo, akala nyo, parang laro lang siya, pero in the end, it will redefine everything about business, about education, about politics. So let's start with this, technology and you. And I will only talk to you about it from my perspective, which is actually the perspective of a journalist, right? Look at how fast technology has shifted. Okay, let's go this way. Ayaw niya eh. When I first became a reporter, again, I think before you were born, but I used a notebook. I still use a notebook. I write, but I now have other gadgets, right? But here, if I was covering this event, I would have to write what's happening in the notebook. There are about 7,000 students from 85 universities organized by #GoNegosyo, right? And then I would have to run outside and look for a payphone. I bet you don't use the payphones as much, but so in New York City, I had to go take notes, run to a payphone, call my editor, and tell my editor what's happening, dictate. Then the editor would write it all down, right? In 1986, I came back to the Philippines, and this is what I found in the newsroom. Iba siya. You have to learn to type hard, like this. It's a skill. Then after that, we had computers, right? So computers came in, and then look how fast. From 1986, we had this. You guys recognize that? Fax, right? Fax was so magical, and I remembered when I first used it around 1987, 88, and I thought it's so magical that I could type a script in, print it, and then 20 seconds later, my editor in Atlanta would be able to write notes, and then I get the paper again, and oh my God, that's amazing. Well, when we started Rappler, one of our guys saw the fax on top of the cabinet, pointed to it, and said, "Ano ho yun? This machine that we thought was so magical is now an antique." Diba? Eto pa. You've never used this if you're in school now, but this was also magical. Badge of, ano yun? A badge of honor. You have Easy Call, Pocket Bell. Companies that are now dead, by the way, right? Easy Call, Pocket Bell. What is it? Beepers. When you're a journalist, a doctor, somebody who needs to be connected, you have a number, you dial, you go to the payphone, you dial a number, and then you tell them, you dictate to the operator the message you want to send to the number. You have to remember the number. And then the operator, when you put down the phone, sends that message, and then beep, beep, beep. Then they have to call the operator to get your message. Incredible, diba? Ngayon, you have a cell phone, and your cell phone can text directly. You don't have to dictate it to anyone. And if you've got Twitter, you can send one text message to thousands. And then here's the last one. This is the one I like best. And this changed everything. In 1987 or 88, CNN sent this big suitcase. I thought, wow, how cool. It's a suitcase. It turns out it's this big, and it was one of the first cell phones. This big. You have to carry it with a sash, this case. And then when you pick it up, it's, you have to carry this big case with it. And that was my job, to carry that to coverage. But again, that cell phone was so magical because all of a sudden, I could stay in this room, I could call, and the call was very expensive, and I could report. That's the first. And then over the years, in a decade, 15 years, look how small the cell phone got. And that cell phone now has more computing power than the largest computers that were around when it first started. Look at how technology affected journalism. And I'll show it to you from my eyes, from one journalist's eyes. When I started, I became a war correspondent, right? I was assigned to conflict areas. I could go away for 2 weeks at a time, and people would know they couldn't reach me, right? So 2 weeks, you could go somewhere and you can report, you can talk to people. A week, then it became a week because you had to check in. Okay, then technology stepped in, and what happened? Cell phones. Then after the cell phone, what does cell phone mean? It means that wherever there's conflict, you report live. So in the middle of riots, you're supposed to be in the middle of a riot. Jakarta in 1998, East Timor, you have to be reporting live. And I remember instances when my parents would be watching and they can't reach me because Atlanta, I'm reporting, and they would hear I'm in the middle of a riot, and all I would get is a message from my desk telling me, your mother is worried, stay out of fire. Cell phones. Then there was satellite. And it's incredible what satellite did, right? Let's go first to this one. When the satellite came out, so it used to be, so here we are reporting on cell phone. So at the end of every day, every 12 hours, you do a satellite piece. Satellite's expensive. It used to be thousands of dollars for 10 minutes. So you would have a whole day, and then at the end of that, you would have one satellite piece. But then, over the years, satellite became cheaper. And then it became $1,400 for 10 minutes, $1,400. Then it became $400 for 10 minutes. And then you're doing live shots from satellite technology every 4 hours or so. But then this is what happened. This thing is something CNN called DNG, Digital News Gathering. And look at how tiny the satellite is. Just this. You can take it anywhere and you'll be live. That's good and bad, huh? Because it meant that you never got to talk to people as much as you would want to. In fact, you were live most of the time. But you could do things like this. Look at that. We're on top of a cargo container in East Timor. East Timor, which was 90% destroyed. And there we are transmitting live. That's incredible. That's what technology does. The world was brought to places they could never go to. We could bring you the world. Technology, that's only one reporter's experience. And here's the funny thing. During that entire time, look at how technology changed the news you get, right? It changed our workflows. At a certain point, breaking news lost its appeal to me. Because I thought, I've been writing about what everyone else is doing. Now I want to create something. So here's the part where you have inspiration, imagination, and courage. And what is that? So I decided I'm going to come home. So I came home to the Philippines. And one of the things that was fun is that I wasn't just one reporter anymore, and I could actually determine policy, right? So what's the policy? For ABS-CBN, we embraced the technology, and we embraced, in this one you'll see citizen journalism. I don't know if you remember, but in 2005 or 2006, the professional journalists said that, hindi, kami lang yung journalists, kayo hindi. Iba na ngayon. Lahat tayo journalists. We're all journalists. Why? Because you have the power in your hands to publish something that only big companies could do before. Now you have it. The gatekeeping powers of journalism is dead. And we are all together. And that means many, many things, right? So then what happened? 6 years in a big company, and I realized, ang bagal kumilos ng malaking kumpanya. It's changing so fast. And this is your world, ah. It's changing so fast, you have to adapt. And your advantage now over your future employers is that you actually know the change ground up. You live in this. You are a digital native. So we created a company called Rappler. I'm old, so Rappler, we still used it. I still report for CNN every now and then, but look at the difference, huh? That's a computer. That's the camera of the computer. So the old cameras that used to cost $35,000, replaced. I could go live with my computer. I could go live with my iPhone, right? Look at the difference in technology. When I was handling a news network, I could spend $2 million for equipment. I spend the same, well, I don't spend the same amount. I spend $150,000 to get the equipment. What does that mean? That means anyone can do it. You just have to get someone to believe first. You have to believe you can do it, and then you have to get others. Form your team. That's what we did in Rappler. Your generation, the future is here. It's here. And what does it look like? Kind of looks funny. It looks like this. Huwag kayong tumawa. In the past, I had a team, 4 people. Cameraman, sound tech, my producer, and reporter. Rappler today has 1 person. Siya yung cameraman, producer, reporter, and sound tech. This picture was taken by Cess Drilon. Kasi natawa sila. This is of our former crew in ABS-CBN laughing at our reporter, Ayi Makaraig, who's talking to a little camera that she set up on her own tripod that's recording her. It can transmit it live. That's the world today. So the future is very different. I can't imagine how it will change in the next few years. But that's part of what you can do. Imagine it. This is what Columbia School of Journalism said. This is what journalists should be doing. And they wrote this in a document last year. They said, the origination of ideas, algorithms, the formation of movements. Bakit yan importante? I'll show you why. The formation of movements and innovations to practices all require originality of thought. How do you have originality of thought? You have to have imagination and inspiration, right? Journalists should be provoking change, initiating experimentation. Here's the last part, and instigating activity. So let me take you to Rappler. Very quickly, what's Rappler? Our core is still there, journalism, professional journalism. Professional journalism just means you take what you know and have some discipline. Don't just retweet if you haven't verified it. Make sure that you're not adding to the chaos, but adding clarity of thought, right? That's what you want to try to do. What's Rappler? Rap, to talk, plus ripple, to make waves. That's the first circle, professional journalism. The second is technology. The technology changes journalism forever. It will never be the same. And those journalists my age who are trying to hold on to the past, they're going to become dinosaurs. Here's that last circle that's important. It's you. The wisdom of the crowds, the crowd. We need to work together. It's a far more collaborative world. This is where Rappler stands, in the middle of all of that. And here are the 3 trends you need to look at. And you need to understand it. Parang the words are technical, but you need to understand what it means for you. So what is it? We create content, our journalism. It's amplified on social media. That's the first word. And what is social media? Social media is just your physical social networks, your family and your friends, except without boundaries of time and place. Social media is your physical social networks on steroids. Okay, social media. Social media amplifies what you want to say. That allows you to broadcast and engage. That leads you to the second one, which is crowdsourcing. An easy definition for crowdsourcing is if all of us in this room were to take one small step, we would create something together that we couldn't have done alone. An example of crowdsourcing is Wikipedia, right? An encyclopedia which doesn't hire reporters, doesn't hire editors, and yet has 2.5 million pages and is your number one. I bet you go to Wikipedia before you go to anything else when you want to search, right? Here's the last part. Encyclopedia Britannica stopped printing a year and a half ago. Hakatakot siya. And the last part, so crowdsourcing leads to the last big technology trend, which is big data. That sounds, again, so what? What does it mean? I'll show you what it means. So what's on Rappler is video. Because as a TV journalist, I've known that 75% of what we remember is not what you hear, it is what you see. So we focus. It's television on demand, it's video on your mobile phone, right? That's what we're after. And what's crowdsourcing? The crowdsourcing on every story is on the mood meter. And let me show you that. We patented a user engagement system where every story has a mood meter. Why? Because the studies tell us that up to 80% of how we as people make decisions in our life is not based on what we think. It's based on how we feel. Medyo mahirap yung tanggapin para sa akin because I'm a thinker, but emotions drive action. And in November of last year, Gallup poll said that the Philippines is the most emotional country in the world. The least emotional is Singapore. So anyway, every story has a mood meter. The 8 emotions are there. You click how you feel. When you click, that becomes a data point, and that's picked up by the mood navigator, which chooses the mood of the day from everyone's votes, and it chooses the top 10 stories that have affected the way we feel. And then it puts it for you. So you can see it, you can navigate that way. When you take all those data points, you can do the month in moods, or you can do the year in moods. This one is the month of May, and I just chose the month of May because we had elections last year, right? So what's interesting about the month of May is you can distill all of the votes to data. And the votes tell us that 77% were happy in May. And it also showed us that everyone, this spike of green is happy, red is angry, purple is annoyed. This spike of green is a day before election day. This spike of red is May 13th, election day. Why did we get angry? Because of the pace of vote returns. The PCOS machine, the voting results were too slow for us. So we became angry and annoyed. So follow down, we became very happy when our senators were announced. And then at the end of the month, there's another spike of red. It's nothing to do with politics. That spike, what made you angry at the end of May, you may not remember it, but the data shows it. Vice Ganda made a joke about rape and Jessica Soho. That's that spike of red. Interesting, diba? Okay, so that's crowdsourcing, right? That's the easy crowdsourcing on Rappler, which all of us do, right? Then I want to show you big data. So this, you can see all the votes at some point become big data when you have millions of votes, tens of millions and hundreds of millions. Then it becomes data. Look at this. That's the big data of the PCOS machine results, your voting results. No bigger data than 53 million Filipinos voting for nearly 18,000 posts, your officials. And what we did is we partnered with Comelec, we signed a memorandum of agreement so we could see all the data points and show it to you transparently. On the x-axis is every PCOS machine that you voted on. On the y-axis is the per hour reporting of those PCOS machines. Just by looking at that, you can see there was a big white space that's between 11 p.m. and about 3 a.m. on election day. That's why Pinoys got angry, that big spike of angry. But here's the fun part. We at Rappler spent 6 months trying to figure out how we can show you all this data in one visual. And this is what we came up with. It's real time, it's dynamic, it's the first time globally. We even beat the United States in this, to have granular detail, to have such transparency that you know on a minute-per-minute basis where every vote is coming from. So you can mouse over all of them and you can see, oh, okay, Grace Poe, who by the way was #1 from the very beginning, right? And you can, when you mouse over her, you'll see every single region where she got her votes. And if you drill down, you can go down to your barangay. Fascinating stuff that you can do with data. All right, that's big data, but here's the next part. There's no bigger data than social media, what you do on social media. I tweeted a picture of you, right, from my Twitter account. That becomes part of it. Let me show you what I mean by big data of social media. On Facebook, we have more than 10 million photos uploaded every hour. In the time we're speaking, your 10 million photos will have been uploaded. On YouTube, 800 million monthly users upload over an hour of video every second. So every second, another hour of video just got uploaded. No one person can go through all of that. And finally, on Twitter, the number of tweets grows around 200% a year. So what does that mean? If you pull up and look at all this data, just God's eye view, right, which I talk about, pull up and see, you get something like this. Most of these were done in 2011. These are Twitter maps, not surveys, but your behavior on Twitter. Human behavior on Twitter. You can map it. And when you map it, you get things like this. A is Japan during the earthquake and the Fukushima reactor, March 2011. And the Japanese behaved the same way Filipinos behave during Sendong or during Ondoy or during Yolanda. What did we do? We gravitate towards hubs of information and we form hubs around news sources, the news groups, and government, right? The next one, hashtag GOP. This is before the US presidential elections, the last one. And this is the behavior of millions of Americans, hundreds of thousands, millions of Americans. And you can see in that split, the division, Americans were divided between Mitt Romney and Barack Obama. The one at the bottom, hashtag Egypt, is what a revolution looks like in virtual, on Twitter. Look at it, diba? Parang nag-implode siya. It's an implosion. And you can see little cells coming together. Why are these cells smaller than those? Because they're fighting the government. And then the last one is hashtag Syria. And you can begin to see that hashtag Syria is forming these small cells, right? What happens when it begins to look like Egypt? Does that mean the rebellion between against President Bashar al-Assad will have succeeded? That's interesting to me. Is there a predictive part of big data? Let's come to the Philippines. You guys remember this. August 26 last year. Hashtag Million People March. One Facebook post, 7 days to bring what the police said was about 100,000 to 150,000 people. The organizers say it was 300,000 people. You choose who you want to believe, but that is the result of a Facebook post. You can go down to the detail and see it, and look, you can see that it took almost a week to be able to get 10,000 tweets here, and then it went like a virus, it went viral. This is 11 a.m. on the day of the rally, and the time of the largest crowd was between 12 and 1 p.m. You can map it, and it looks like this. Medyo magulo siya tingnan, di ba? That's what we looked like in the virtual world, on Twitter, and that's what we looked like on the ground. If you were there at the rally and you walked around, parang it was a rally against corruption, pero parang boring siya kasi wala siyang leader. And that is the challenge for something like this. Egypt went through something like this. You need to focus the narrative to action points, right? And we need the organization of the narrative is the next step in something like that. What does this technology do? Look how powerful it is. Little Rappler, we're less than 100 people today. We started with 12 people. According to Alexa, and you can go online to see it, we're the third top online news source for you. Thank you. The top two are your traditional media. And ABS, I think today ABS is number one, Inquirer is number two. But how interesting, it's print, TV, and then we're purely online. Rappler is third. That's incredible in the top 500 of the Philippines. The last thing I want to show you in this is, can you have a global ripple? Because I don't think Filipinos should only think about the Philippines. I think if you're ambitious and you want to make a difference, you need to think of the world. So can you, with technology, reach the world? You can. This is actually a campaign for women going against labels. We did it with Pantene, a commercial brand. Again, look at the world of collaboration, right? And this one, you can see the red is the Philippines, the blue is the United States. And you can see the way the ripple happened. This first one here, the first bump that you see is when the ad, the 30-second ad of the bias against women came out on November 8th. Actually, it was November 7th. So there's that spike. You see the spike of red all the way to the end, right? And then Rappler, we commissioned a survey to look at how we all, NCR, the National Capital Region, look at women. And we held a forum, and we held a Twitter discussion, and we blogged about it, we live streamed it. There was this spike. But what was interesting is the ripple of that spike. The ripple of the spike filtered out to the rest of the world. Yes, it trended #1 in the Philippines, it trended #3 globally, right? Trending #3 globally took it here. That's a spike in the United States from the same thing. Why? The COO of Facebook, Sheryl Sandberg, took it, posted it on her Facebook, and made it go viral outside of the Philippines. What did it mean for BBDO, which was the advertising agency that did the ad? They supplanted another ad agency that normally handles Pantene in the West, in the developed nations, Canada and the United States. And this campaign started in the Philippines and went global. Unlike most other ad campaigns that start in the US or Canada and come to Asia. It has a global ripple, and the other part about it is it's driven on social media. I'll end with just one last big thought. I've shown you a commercial purpose for it, right? What about, can we make our country better? Can we make our lives better? Can we crowdsource? Can we work together to help government give us the things that we've always wanted? And the answer again, for me, is yes. Yes, we can. This is Haiyan or Yolanda from outer space. This is what it looked like on the ground. Let's look at social media. It was devastating for the country, right? You can watch it. This is a crisis tracker that we put on Rappler. And you can click one of these and automatically get every single tweet that came from that area or that is tagged to that area. Rappler joined a global community of digital mappers, and we worked on trying to categorize and map the tweets. And it wasn't just Filipinos. There were people in Qatar, there were people in London, there were people in Germany, there were people in the United States. And so when we went to sleep, other people around the world helped us. And this is something that's used by the United Nations, right? That's interesting. You can map, rescue mapping. This is not us doing it, it is you. People will put up, because they were looking for information. The problem with Yolanda, of course, is that telcos went down. And that's the first time. Actually, that's the first time I've ever lost touch with a reporter as long as we've had. So rescue mapping, you can map relief operations and relief needs. You can crowdsource mapping where there are cell phone signals. And they did. Our crowd mapped it so people can see it. We help each other help ourselves. We together mapped roads and infrastructure. And here's the part I like best. The government was so busy with the disaster itself. What about the people who had families and friends in Tacloban, in the Visayas area? We worked with Google and Facebook. Google sent an engineer here. Facebook, we sat with them because, of course, Facebook has that facial recognition system, right? And what we did is we uploaded the photos. You can search them. Our guy from MovePH, Zach Yuson, took these photos. And then if you're in London or if you're in India and you're looking for a relative, you can search it. And in Google and Facebook are connected. Two competitors who work together for the common good. We can access them. We can work together. And we were able to do that. The last part of all of this, and I want you to imagine again the possibilities. I always wanted real-time reporting of disasters. We do it in news. The reason why government can't do it is that they have a lot of bureaucratic layers. But what if we all do it together? What if each of us, wherever we are, map something? And that's called crowdsourcing. So I want to talk to you and leave you with this. Project Agos is something that we we're working with both government, private sector, and you. Students drove crowdsourcing in the United States. Students will be the key to success of this, right? Project Agos, if you go on Rappler, you will see there's a before, during, and after. If you haven't done it yet, go to the hazard maps and look for your city and your home. And look to see that you actually know where to go if a flood happens. And know whether or not your evacuation area is safe. You have to look at that because we have to help government help ourselves. It's only going to get worse, right? I'm going to leave you with this last thing. This is during. So the before part is go to the hazard maps. There's a lot of other stuff you can see there, but we're working on this with the Climate Change Commission, with the OCD, the Office of Civil Defense, the DSWD, a lot of different groups with PDRF. One of the things that you can do is, I'll leave you with this video, real-time reporting and real-time response. So normally what happens now is you will call if you need help. Or you'll call a friend who'll call a friend who's going to try to get help to you. Or you'll have a padrino you'll go to who will call for help. Now what you can do, you can tweet, you can text, you can plug it directly into the computer. I'll show you what that looks like now. And let me show you this video. It's about a minute long. Audio up and lights down. Citizen journalist. This is video that was sent in 2012. Hashtag RescuePH. The first responder sees it. This is police, most likely. And he responds. Real-time reporting, real-time response. That's Project Agos. That's what we want to build together. It's there. We've iterated it. Thank you. That clap is for yourselves because these are things that you make possible. No one news group, no one organization can do this alone. But I think together, we're seeing how hard it is now, right? Every time the rain starts, I get scared. And I want to be prepared. I want to make sure my family is safe. Together, we can do that, and we can help government help us. Last call for you again. You're living at an incredible time. You can use the inspiration that technology gives you. Use the inspiration you will get from other speakers who have moved and forged ahead. Add imagination. Imagine what you can do with the technology at your fingertips. Imagine. And then third, have the courage to do it. Don't wait until you're out of school. Facebook was created by kids who were in school, and it now connects more than 1 billion people globally. Be creative, be courageous, be inspired, and you will change the world. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Maria Ressa, let's hear it for her again, of Rappler. Start tweeting your moods already. Now, alam na natin kung ano ang big data. Oy, grabe.
Yes.
Si Mike kinig na kinig sa likod yung TV.
Hindi kasi pinakikinggan ko, malaking bagay talaga yung...
Can you imagine? Nowadays, hindi lang chismis ang ating nasispread, hindi lang balita.
Yes.
You can rescue people.
That's right.
Just by tweeting. Imagine that way of organizing
Saka,
things.
hindi lang yun. You can even inspire people using technology. And bawa ko sala, meron po akong ginagamit ko yung one smile a day sa Facebook. Every day I post inspiring quote. Like for example, kung may pinagdadaanan kang problema, dumaan ka lang, huwag kang tumambay.
Ayun.
Ang dami nagre-react, sabi, tama.
Retweet,
yes,
like.
retweet, yes.
So it's really easy to spread information nowadays. But of course, responsibility comes with
Dapat,
it.
oo.
Okay. And speaking about social media,
Yes.
gaya ng FB, Twitter na ginagamit rin ng mga women, isisingit ko lang to ha.
Yes.
Sa kanilang business and sa kanilang mga partners, I'd like to take this opportunity to invite all of you here, March 7 at the World Trade Center sa may Pasay City po yan. Everyone is invited to the Go Negosyo 6th Filipino Entrepreneurship Summit para sa mga kababaihan. They will be joined by big names in the industry like Senator Grace Poe, Senator Cynthia Villar, Miss Corina Sanchez, Miss Chris Aquino, aba kasama rin. And of course, other partners, 90.7 Love Radio's DJ
Yes.
Nicole Ayala, and a lot more. Huwag niyo pong kalimutan, March 7 po iyan. O, balik tayo.
March 7. Of course. Nako.
Women's Summit.
Women's Summit.
Oo.
Nandyan tayo niyan, I'm sure.
Kasama ka
Ako
rin.
lang ata lalaki doon. Oo, ha?
O, hindi
Ayan.
kasi everything is changing na rin. Not just technology, pero ngayon mga kababaihan,
That's
big time na rin. Alright.
That's right. And of course, we would like to acknowledge also the presence, of course, ng ating mga kaibigan muli sa PLDT. Siyempre, kasama po natin si Mr. Paulie Nazareno, ang ating pong President po, sir. Good morning po.
for
It's an
making it
honor
and
to be
joining
with you
us.
again, Mr. Paulie Nazareno, President of Smart Communications. So, siyempre, ang ating kaibigan, si Mr. Eric Alberto and Miss Kat Luna, thank you po for staying. Alam niyo po bang hanggang Friday po tayo dito?
Ready na raw sila,
Hindi ba
ready
kayo
na.
na-inform mo? Kala ko hindi po kayo na-inform. Naatinan niyo po, vigil. Holy Week na ho eh.
Tuloy-tuloy.
Yan, di ba?
Non-stop.
Naku.
Oy, speaking about non-stop, I was on the side earlier on at nakita ko ang mga tweets nila.
Talaga?
Ginagamit na ang hashtag FTS3 kasi third summit na rin to. Yung mga nandun, Miss Maria Reza, oh my
Syempre,
gosh!
nandun,
Yung mga ganun yung mga comments.
Ganun, ano?
So please continue putting on your comments.
Nakita ko nga rin nakalagay doon, andyan pa si Charles saka si Michael. Sino yan? Pina-comment, di ba?
Huwag nyo i-retweet yun, ha? Para hindi lalong malimutan ang inyong mga natutunan.
Yes.
Gawin yung Blackboard, yung Twitter, and yung Facebook sa pamamagitan ng hashtag na yan.
Yes.
Siyempre, yung ating Wi-Fi or 3G LTE-enabled gadgets right now, di ba? Yes na yes.
Hirap magsalita pag busog.
Uy, pwede ba natin makita? Ayan.
Ito po ang ating
Hashtag
pong-
FTS3 at gamitin rin, i-retweet din using at Let's Go Negosyo and
Yes.
ang ating Go Negosyo official Facebook.
That's
Yaman
right.
din
Naku,
lang na Technopreneurship.
alam mo, hindi talaga
to.
ako makapaniwala na inabutan ko na ang henerasyon na to dahil nung panahon ko, naabutan ko pa na ang means of communication, usok. Usok. May meeting doon. Mga tribo.
May
Yan,
nagpapaapoy
nagsisiga.
doon.
Parang kailan lang. Ngayon, Diyos ko, everything possible, di ba? Ang bilis. Lalo yung mga kabataan, Ang bilis.
And that's why responsibility is very important. We also want to emphasize that. Kasi ngayon,
Yes.
ang balita, ang daling kunin na. May isang maglagay lang sa status,
Tama.
isang like lang, i-retweet, yun
Yes.
na yun, dire-diretso na.
Tama. Inaantay ko na nga lang na dumating ang panahon na pati mga cellphones edible. Pwede mong kainin. Pagka wala ka
Lahat na
makain,
naisip.
kainin mo, bili ka na
Alam
lang
mo,
ulit.
hindi ko makakalimutan. Nung high school po ako, nagmo-malling kami ng mga kaibigan ko.
High school, nako siguro mga
2 years ago lang yun. 2 years ago.
1902 to.
2 years ago. Nagmo-malling kami. May lumapit
May mall
sa...
na ba?
May
Noon?
mall na noon. Ikaw
Okay.
naman. Dati tawag namin doon quad. Ngayon,
Ang
Glorieta
alam ko lang na mall, Totoban.
O yun, may lumapit, nagpapasurvey. What do you want to see in your cellphone? Nagtawa na kami mga kaibigan, lagay mo radyo, ha? Lagay mo
Gatawanan
manood
kayo.
ng movie.
Movie,
Biruin mo ngayon, totoo na. Ngayon lahat nakakapanood ng movie, nakakapanood ng show, nakakagawa ng sariling movie.
Tama.
Gamit ang kanilang mga cellphone.
Ibang-iba na talaga ngayon, di ba? Ayan, ako, paki-announce mo naman. Ikaw magaling dyan.
Ay, ito. Gaya ng sinabi ni Brother Mike, shoot to kill nga pag
Shoot to
lumabas.
kill, ang lumabas,
Okay, hindi
ha?
po biro yan. Actually, mas malala kung ang ating threat ay kung sino ang lumabas, bagsak negosyo sa future. Oh,
Ganun
mas
agad,
matatakot
di ba?
yun.
O dahil shoot to kill, may mga kabarkada ho kayo nakatumba na ho sa labas. Paki-collect na lang po
Paki-pull
ang
out
mga
na
katawan
po.
nila.
No,
At,
what we want to mention to everyone is that lunchtime, we've actually thought of everyone here
Opo, dito lang kayo.
because mamimigay po kami ng libre. Libre po, hindi nyo po kailangan tumayo ng inumin. So may
Libre.
drinks na mula sa RFM at kay Mr. Joey Concepcion.
Palakpakan naman po natin.
5,000
Libreng
yan
inumin.
Oo,
Oh, ang dami
5,000.
nun.
Oo,
Ah,
para
juice.
sa kanila. Juice.
Ayan, di ba?
Para sa lahat sa inyo. At nagpa-discount na rin po. Mamaya may nagbebenta po siya ng chicken mang inasal. Mula sa 130 pesos, 50 pesos na lang po.
Oh, ayan,
Mamaya
50
yan,
na
sa
lang.
loob. Oo.
Dahil discounted,
Oo.
ha? Balat lang ng manok ang makakain nyo, ha?
Marami namang
Hindi,
kanin.
may kanin naman.
Oo, may kanin naman.
By the way po pala, yung mga jokes po namin, pang matatalino lang po, ha? So, kung di po kayo natatawa, alam nyo na bobo po kayo. So, umalis na
Ayun,
po
tumawa
kayo.
bigla.
O, tanyo, ito hindi to tumatawa tong side na to. Ngayon, ang lakas ng tawa nyo. Ayaw nyo pag hinalaan bobo kayo. Ayan, ayan, di ba? So, ayan po, discounted ang chicken. Ayan. Yun.
Yun.
Oo, kung may dessert pa, ang
And
napunta...
of course,
May dessert ba?
hindi, we also have other partners kasi here,
Oh,
mga
ayan,
food
no?
stalls. Lahat po nandito na sa loob.
I-try nyo. Kainin nyo yung Wilcom Depot, DHL, PLDT. Ayan, kainin nyo. Tingnan ko lang kung matuwa kayo sa sarili nyo, ha?
Kondura.
Yes, Kondura.
Oh.
Kumain kayo ng aircon, di ba?
Diba? Oh, malamigan pa kayo.
Kaya, nasaan ka anak? Ito, nagla-lunch po ng Kondura. Di ba? Ayan, no, si Mr. Kalata, gumagawa ng feeds ng pagkain ng baboy. Try nyo rin.
Masarap din, oo.
Oh, Golden
Uy, ikaw
Bean.
endorser nun, di ba?
Siyempre, endorser ako ng Golden Bean, ang bagong kakampi ng bayan. Ayan.
Paano?
Siyempre, ang bagong kakampi ng bayan.
Paano ulit?
Ganon. Mukhang niloloko mo na ako, Ayan,
Okay, and that's why we placed all of these stalls
Yes.
para makakain kayo sa loob because we don't want you to miss a thing.
Yes,
parang
kita nyo
kanta
si
yan,
Ma'am, may nakuha na. Ma'am, saan yung punerarya nakuha yan,
Pasa-pasahan ng
Parang
pagkain.
may mga dandala, parang may burulan, di ba? Ayan, so please po, mag-stay po kayo. Marami pa po tayong mga bisita. Sinabi ko kanina, si Dagul, baka makahabol. Si Dagul po, bago po nag-artista yan, kasama ko yan sa
Ano?
industriya, negosyante, nagtitinda ng taho. Kaya lang lugi kasi lagi nakakaladkad yung taho. So natatapon, lugi.
Pagtapos na ubos na.
Tumigil. Ang ginawa niya, nag-iba ng industriya, photography. Kumukuha ng mga picture sa kasal. Naku, laging narereklamo kasi lahat ng kuha, puro tuhod, no? Sabi, ano ba yan? Puro kasal, wala akong makita. Puro tuhod.
Putol na putol.
Yes, kakaiba, di ba?
Uy, gusto namin i-invite lahat ng tao na mag-tweet kasi mamaya mamimili po kami ng magagandang tweets at ilalagay po namin real-time to.
That's right.
Ipapakita natin dito sa ating mga screens.
At mamimigay po tayo ngayon ng iPad. Gusto niyo po ba ng iPad? Sinong gusto ng iPad? Mamimigay kami ng 5 intermediate pad.
O
Okay?
yun, lengthwise,
So,
no?
Or
Oo.
crosswise. Mamili kayo.
Uy, but seriously speaking, we will be giving away cell phones. Who wants to get cell phones? Cellphone charger
Cellphone
po.
charger.
Opo. So, bahala na kayo.
Dahil
oo.
nandito po si Mr. Kalata na sa agrikultura, mamimigay din po kami ng 1,000 sako ng bigas na kasaing na. So malamang 3 taon na kasinangag kayo.
And our grand prize winner, we will be giving away kotse po, car. Who wants to get that? Taas ng kamay. Natakot na sila. Hindi totoo po to. We will be giving away a car.
Talaga?
Car freshener.
Hindi, ito totoo. Walang halong biro. Mamimigay... magbibigay ho ng 5 cellphone.
Uy, galing na yan sa Big
Nako,
Boss, ha?
yan, alam
Totoo
mo na,
pala.
galing na yan sa Smart Communications.
Palakpakan po tayo.
5 cellphone,
Totoo po yan.
3210.
Ayan.
3210.
Uy, yung totoo.
Hindi.
Meron
Teka muna.
talaga. Lapitan mo nga. Lapitan mo.
Taga-PLDT to, sir. Sir, totoo po ba itong mga nangyayari po? Sir Polly, opo. Sir, alam niyo po, wala rin po ako cellphone Maganda rin ako endorser. Lahat na endorse ko, panalo. So, mamimigay po. 5 cellphone po. Ayan. Edible, nakakain daw na cellphone. Thank you po. Sir, kayo po, baka may gusto pa kayo pamigay. Si Sir Erico mamimigay ng 250,000 worth of funeral services.
Oy!
Ang maganda
Importante
po,
yan.
Mare, non-transferable. Pag ikaw ang nanalo, ikaw lang dapat gumamit. Ha? Ayan, ha? At magagamit nyo po in 3 days, pakibilisan po. Ha? Sir, 5 cellphone. O, 5
Lima po.
cellphone. Ha? Nako, palakpakan natin ang Smart Communication.
Smart at
Nabobo na.
PLDT, thank you
Smart
very
communication.
Narinig lang tayo, naawa sa mga prices natin.
Yeah, yung mga mananalo, utang na loob nyo sa amin lahat, ha?
Oo, kami yon.
Oh, yung Wilcon Dipon, di ba kayo mamimigay ng Unidoro? Unidoro, bathtub, mamigay tayo.
Oh, pati kondura, di ba? Take home nga lang, ikaw magbubuhat ng sarili mong aircon hanggang labas na.
Alam mo, speaking, nandito yung Mang Inas.
Oy!
Isang laptop! Nako!
Palakpakan po isang laptop.
Oh, isang
Alam
laptop
mo,
from PLDT SME, ha? Oh, ayan,
nararamdaman
isang
ko
laptop.
na.
Sir Eric, ba't hindi nyo ginawa sa akin yan nung nandun ako, Sir Eric? Bakit pag ako walang ganyan? Sa isang laptop?
Mike, nararamdaman ko na. Mag-mention tayo ng mga pangit na prices. Paawa ng paawa.
Paawa ng
Maawa
paawa.
sila. Palaki ng palaki yung mga binibigay.
Alam nyo, maganda yung laptop nila, ang pindot ganito.
Hoy, may ibang version yung ganun.
Give me an A. Tanananan, you got the stinger.
Alam ko
Oh,
yan, naabutan ko
nyo-
yun.
Naabutan nyo yan, ha? Oh.
So, laptop and 5 cellphones.
Laptop and 5 cellphones, ha? Nakakatuwa naman yan. Naku, grabe naman. Mga kaibigan,
Meron pa po ba, sir? Meron pa po ba?
we would like to acknowledge the presence and
Ay,
the
of
arrival
course. Ayan
of
na.
MVP, Mr. Manny V. Pangilinan.
Ladies and gentlemen, full force ang PLDT ngayon. Nako, this is what you call an inspiring day.
Thank you very much po for coming, MVP. Nako, kompleto na yung mga icons natin. Nako ha, kita mo, wala pa si MVP. Ang pinamigay na ng PLDT, 5 cellphone, isang laptop.
Tapos
Nako,
dumating na si MVP.
dumating si MVP, baka ibigay na nito buong PLDT.
Pwede rin.
Nako, Mr. MVP. Namigay po kasi sila po ng mga gadget.
On the spot.
Dahil nandito na ang ating mahal na MVP, ibibigay niya na sa inyo yung satellite ng Smart. Ano?
Oo.
Kayo nang bahala. Kayo na gumawa ng teknolohiya nyo. Ha? Pero, nako sir, isang malaking karangalan po na nandito
Very
po
honored.
kayo.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Oo.
Uy, hindi lang joining us. Talagang makakasama natin on stage.
Magsasalita si MVP.
Okay, everyone who's here today, kakaiba nga, tulad na sinabi ni Sir Joey Concepcion, ang mangyayari
Yes.
ngayon, dialogue po ito kung saan kayo mismo makakasama sa usapan. Pwede kayong magtanong mamaya. So please, please, please take advantage of
Take
it.
this. Alam mo, Chala, bago tayo magpatuloy, nakakatuwa sapagkat nagpapasalamat tayo sa buhay at sa Panginoon na umabot tayo sa panahon ng teknolohiya na lahat ay madali na para sa advantage natin. It's up to
Correct.
you kung paano mo gagamitin.
Gagamitin.
Naalala ko, di ba, ngayon, alam nyo, wala na, bihira na ngayon ang walang technology. Pag nagpunta ka sa Japan, pag nagpunta po kayo sa Japan, wala nang security guard ang mga mall. Mare, ang security guard doon, robot. Pag umikot yung robot, 1 oras lang nakakahuli ng magnanakaw. Nung nalaman ng Amerikang may ganong technology, bumili ang Amerika ng technology, 500 ang binili robot. Pinakalat sa lahat ng mall, 30 minutes,
Wow.
nahuli mga shoplifter. Nung nalaman, syempre, papahuli ba Pilipinas?
Oo.
Bumili rin tayo, 3,000 units.
Wow.
Pagkakalat ng mga robot, 5 minutes pa lang, nawawala na yung robot. No?
Ubus na.
So, nanakaw na yung robot.
Ubus na. Ang galing ng Pilipino. Oo.
Ayun ang maganda sa technology. Ha?
Alam mo ngayon, kahit sa governance, no, ang technology na
Yes!
nagagamit, di ba, ang ibang bansa nagpapadala ng kung maraming soldiers. Pero
Yes!
ngayon, pag naggera,
Totoo, di ba?
Oo.
Alam nyo, dati-rati, nung nagkaroon ng gera, ang Amerika nagpadala ng 1,000 jet.
Marami.
Ang China,
China!
500 jets. Ang Japan, 5 jet lang ang pinadala. Umatras, narinig nila yung tunog. Tenen, ten, tenen, ten, ten. Nako, si Voltes 5. Hindi natin kaya yan, di ba? Iba na ngayon.
ang technology.
Yes, di ba?
Iba ka, partner.
Pati laro. Dati, simple ang mga laro. Piko, shato, taguampong. Yung hanap ka ng hanap, nakauwi na pala lahat ng kaibigan mo. Di ba? Sino makakalimot ng larong Chinese garter?
Oo,
Nung
lalaki,
panahon
babae.
ko, naglalaro ako doon. Ngayon, pag lalaki ka, tumalong ka doon, sigawan ka, bakla, 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 bakla. Pwede bang silahis muna, wag agad bakla, no? Papunta rin ako doon, progressive. Ngayon, laptop, family computer. Pag hindi gumagana, iniihipan mo. Di ba?
Naabutan ng iba.
Hindi nyo nabutan? Bioman. Nabutan nyo si Bioman? Yung yan ang ninuno ni Power Ranger at ni Massman. Laging natatalo yan kasi saan ka man nakakita, nandiyan na yung kalaban, nagbibihis pa lang sila. Di ba? Iba.
Iba na. At dahil iba na, sisimulan natin ang ating nakakaibang
Yes.
dialogue ngayon.
Eto na, ang iniintay natin.
Kung kanina na narinig nyo si Miss Maria Ressa ng Rappler,
Yes.
ngayon naman we'll be having a dialogue with the Philippines technology giants. Okay, powered by PLDT Smart Communications, Meralco, and RFM. Ito na.
Yan, ikaw na. Tuloy mo na, hiningal ako eh. Ikaw nagbigay ng mga ganong script eh. Oh, yan.
Oh, ito na. He's the managing partner of Tallwood Venture Capital, a firm
Yes.
focusing on semiconductors and semiconductor-related technologies. Prior to forming Tallwood, he was a venture partner at the Mayfield Fund. He also co-founded 3 technology startups and held positions at National Semiconductor, Seek Technologies, Intersil, and Commodore International. In 1997, he was honored with the prestigious Master Entrepreneur of the Year sponsored by Ernst & Young Incorporated magazine and Merrill Lynch Business Financial Services. Wow, bigatin to.
Yes.
He serves as chairman for SIRF Technology and current Tallwood portfolio companies. He also served as chairman and led investments in various technology-related companies.
On a personal capacity, he contributes his time and expertise to companies and various institutions in the Philippines. He and his family also established the Banatao Filipino-American Education Fund that provides scholarship grants to young Phil-Am students as well as support to his alma mater, the Malabak Elementary School in the Philippines. Much of his time recently has been directed toward the Philippine Development Foundation, which he chairs.
He holds a BSEE cum laude from the Mapua Institute of Technology in the Philippines and an MS in Electrical Engineering and Computer Science from Stanford University. Ladies and gentlemen, nako, proud ang mga Pinoy dito.
Of course.
Let's put our hands together for no less than the chairman of the Philippine Development Foundation, the pride of Cagayan Valley, and now of Silicon Valley, Engineer Dado Banatao.
Ayan po. Muli po palakpakan po natin, Engineer Dado Banatao.
Gustong-gusto ko yun. From Cagayan Valley to Silicon Valley. Sir, we'd like to invite you
Sir,
over
thank you
here.
very
Good
much.
morning. Good morning. Idol to.
Totoo po.
Idol to.
Pagka dumadaan yung mga idol, di tayo makapagsalita, ano?
Speechless na. Alright, dagdagan pa natin ang pagiging speechlessness natin.
Oo.
Kasi mahaba rin to.
Okay.
Oh, yan na.
Alright.
Ayan. Ngayon naman, ladies and gentlemen, kanina tinawag natin ang pangalan, pero let's introduce him as well. He is the chairman of the Philippine Long Distance Telephone Company from 1998 up to the present. He is also the chairman of TV5, Philex Mining, and Metro Pacific Investment Corporation, or MPIC. He spent his elementary and high school days at San Beda College. He graduated cum laude from the Ateneo de Manila University with a Bachelor of Arts degree in Economics. He received his MBA degree in 1968 from the Wharton School of University in Pennsylvania. In August 24, 2012, at an Internet and Mobile Marketing Summit, he surprised the audience as he announced that he was activating an account on the social media platform Twitter. He posted, "Hey, I just met you and this is crazy, but here's my Twitter." Oh, saan ka pa?
Follow me, maybe? More than 10,000 people followed his Twitter account that day. He became the first top corporate head honcho to join a social networking site. Grabe.
Ilan tweets kaya
Sir,
meron
grabe
to?
naman kayo. Isang tweet lang, 10,000 agad. Kami, sir, nakikiusap pa ho kami. May mag-tweet lang ho sa amin.
Pa-retweet
Oo.
na lang, oh.
Nagbayad pa nga ako 2 days ago eh. Magmukha lang ako sikat. Oh, ayan.
Currently, he has 67.3 thousand plus,
Wow.
ha? Plus followers at madadagdagan pa.
Oh,
The most of any Philippine CEO and businessman of his stature. Can you imagine that? Wow.
That's right. He is the chairman of PLDT Smart, TV5, Felix Mining, and Metro Pacific Investments Corporation, Red Mobile, Meralco, Stratcom International Holdings Incorporated, SBI Global, Signal Digital TV, Filipino
Marami yan.
Telephone Corporation or PhilTel, Talk and Text, First Pacific Tollways Corporation, ayan, dumadaan tayo dyan, syempre. Digital Telecommunications Philippines, Sun Cellular, Voyager Innovations Inc. and San Beda College.
Halos lahat na nakikita niyo po at nadadaanan, yun na rin po, sa kanya na rin.
Oo, imposible hindi natin siya makilala. Let's put our hands together for no less than Mr. Manny MVP Pangilinan!
And now that kumpleto na po ang ating mga panahon, we'd like to invite Miss Maria Ressa of Rappler back here on stage to help us facilitate our dialogue.
Ayan po. Nako, kumpleto na. Ang lakas ng force nito, oh. Sir, nako po sir, it's an honor to meet you. O yan, nakamayan na natin ulit si MVP. Lord, hawa-hawa naman ang tagumpay.
Good morning.
Morning.
My
Morning
gosh.
to everybody.
Sabi ni Michael, bigat. Okay, so why don't we start? You have two gentlemen in front of you who are self-made. Okay, we have very limited time with Dado Banatao and Manny Pangilinan. What strikes me about them is they are self-made men. They've created something out of grassroots support. I guess let's start with this. I'll toss to them so you know a little bit more about them. Dado, you came from a province. You tell us, I guess in a snapshot, what's your story?
Work hard. But yes, you're right. I come from the north. My father was a farmer. And so he struggled funding us going through college. But then, you know, if you have, and it came from our own desire to better ourselves. My grades or my talent since primary grades has always been in math and so on, so I went into engineering. But clearly, that's not enough. You have to take the ultimate risk of getting yourself into a business situation, and hence, you know, this is after I already in the United States, going to graduate school, and after having confidence in being able to do extreme difficulty designs, the next step is being an entrepreneur. And then from there to an investor or venture capitalist.
So Dado Banatao is the Filipino in Silicon Valley. Manny Pangilinan, on my right, you know well. Manny, again, from where you came from to where you are now.
Well, I probably have a similar history as Dado, although I was born in Manila, grew up in Manila in San Juan, Little Baguio, and, you know, humble origins, and worked very hard like Dado here, no? So, yeah, so this is where we are, I suppose.
If you're sitting in their seat today, what advice, what would you do? How would you look at the world? How would you position yourself, given the technology that's around and that we're in the Technopreneurship Summit? I mean, what advice would you give people sitting across from us?
Well, maybe to provide context. You like context, right?
Yes.
Being a journalist, there was I thought an excellent remarks that the president, the first lady president of Korea made at the World Economic Forum in Davos, where she said that nothing new in terms of what he said, what she said, in terms of a new paradigm shift that the world and especially Korea must enter into. She went back to history and said, at least within living memory, the Industrial Revolution created what she called a material divide. between the industrializing economies at the time and the developing economies. Of course, that has now been realized, and the next big wave is where we are today, the so-called digital divide, which Dado, I'm sure, could talk about more expertly than I can. But she said that the future is what she said should be called the creative divide, because given that the population of the world will rise from the current 6 billion to 9 billion, say, in the next 50 years, our resources will get depleted. So we have to apply the creativity of the mind in order to overcome the depletion of resources that will come naturally and the adverse impact on the climate. No? So they're looking at, Korea is looking at what sort of things can be done to create new products, new services using the brain rather than focusing on just the basic resources. No? Kasi kami rin, we are internally criticizing and assessing ourselves. We are still in the world businesses. This country and even our group are not in the so-called new businesses that we should be developing as a country. No? But then the future really belongs to the youth who are here in this auditorium, no? Which is really the mind. You have to be creative, and it will be a battle of the minds in the future.
Dado, you've succeeded globally, technologically, you've taken things you've learned from Mapua and you've moved it. What does the Philippines have to offer? And again, to fine-tune the things that Manny said is, what should this group of people in front of us, what should they be looking at? You look at it from a macro perspective, but from that end, what does the Philippines have to offer?
You know, you and I were talking about earlier, we have the numbers, assuming that we apply those numbers in the right direction. So let me put some context also as to why I say that. We are still a developing country. Unfortunately, we have a lot of poor people, and our economy clearly shows that. There's not enough growth to be able to get on to the next stage of products and services, meaning the really, really high value add products and services. What we need, and this is the research that we've done at PhilDev, if we want to move from a developing country to, or let's say a developed country, there are three things that developed countries have proven to work all the time after World War II. And that is technology is number one, and we need to access the global markets. But to access the global markets, we need more investments. You know, the capacity of our savings here in the country, which is usually used to, for development, it's not enough to get to that next stage. So we need foreign direct investments. The nice thing with that is that it brings in more technology and global market knowledge. So the loop is closed. But let me go back to the first requirement, therefore. If we have the numbers, we need to therefore apply those numbers to what is first needed, and that is technology. And I'm glad to see that there are thousands here from universities that are, I guess the background, if I understand what was said, are all engineering. And so we should apply that properly. Now, what does that mean? Unfortunately, also, our capability in engineering is not yet world class. We have a lot of catching up to do. Where did that come from? I think that basically we need to look into our teachers, our faculty, our research. Data shows that we are way down the list of these kinds of expertise in Asia. And it takes a lot of money to develop that. Between the government, academia, and industry, we need to really focus all of those resources to solve this problem. And, you know, I am passionate about helping. That's why I'm here this morning. And I see that there is such a wide gap between where we should be and where we are now. but it starts with education. You know, the numbers in our population would be useless if we don't do it properly here. Clearly, innovation and entrepreneurship is the way to go. But we have to have that sufficient base of scientists and engineers to innovate, create all the necessary technologies. Then maybe we can finally attract foreign direct investments, come up with value-add products and services, and then it multiplies fast enough that the growth, high growth, will be sustainable. And history shows that that's what a lot of countries did after World War II. Japan was decimated, Germany, a lot of other countries. But very quickly, they developed their economy. Why? Simply because they have a lot of technical knowledge in coming up with value-add products.
Our two gentlemen will give us God's eye view of where we are, right? So I think we'll struggle to find how we find it. In a snapshot, how do you look at the Philippines today then?
Say again?
Strengths and weaknesses of the
Strengths and
Philippines
weaknesses. Wow, okay. I think clearly our culture is one of the strengths. We are a very patient people. While it may be a disadvantage because we don't try to really, quote, mix things up because we're fairly patient, that's an asset because we can do things. By keeping our heads down and do the work, that's a great asset. But the question, however, is, are we actually doing the right work? So the weakness, I would say, unfortunately, is in the educational system, especially in science and engineering. Numbers show that of all the close to 2,000 colleges and universities in the Philippines, only 7% of the faculty have PhDs. And also, unfortunately, I claim that out of that 7%, it is questionable because there is hardly any real research going on in many universities. Only very few. So now you look at that as, what do we do? But it's a total weakness in our educational system. We need to do something about that. Unfortunately, segments of our government do not believe that we need to do any research. We have a big problem. You know, if you survey the kinds of technologies coming out of our country, even if you find one, it's probably not as competitive as it should be using global metrics. A severe weakness. I think, again, maybe the negative side of being patient is that we don't push hard enough the big institutions, meaning government, academe, and industry, to do the biggest job they have to do. And if we don't do this, we will have, I don't know that we can solve poverty in this country, frankly.
Dado, education and research. Manny, the same question. And if in a snapshot of the Philippines, in your view, the strengths and weaknesses?
Well, insofar as it relates to technology. Well, part of it is what Dado said earlier about the educational system, no? Which does not put great emphasis on the sciences and engineering. And for example, I chair the TOYM Foundation, and when I first sat in the first board meeting of the foundation, I asked for the list of awardees from the start, and the preponderant awardees were either entertainers or politicians, and very few scientists, Dado, no? So I said, why can't we, at least for the next few years, bias the choices towards more the science-orientated disciplines rather than, you know, entertainment. I have nothing against entertainers or politicians, but it's just that it just shows that the thinking is in that direction. So it's both we tend to be a prisoner of ourselves. It's our own fault. I mean, in terms of our education, but more importantly, in terms of our attitude. No, the advantage of this country is what they call the demographic dividend, because we have such a great number of young people whose creativity, whose risk-taking attitude should be unleashed. And we elders tend to put a dampener on those things in many, many, many ways. Even the development thinking of government typically would focus on the traditional industries, on traditional industries, to alleviate poverty, as Dado indicated. But there are of course certain basic industries we must build. We need roads, we need airports, we need water system, we need power, etc. But beyond that, we should be able to really explore the ability of technology and creativity, innovation, to see how it can precisely alleviate the welfare of our people. No? I think it can be done. Why not? But we should open up. We should encourage our people, our youth especially, just to take risks. They're young enough to fail.
If you have questions for Dado Banatao and Manny Pangilinan, please come up. There are mics on the floor. While we're waiting for the questions, come on up and then we'll stop and get your questions. Let me toss back. You both talked about education and building capacity, right? But Dado, a lot of your work is, you came from Mapua, you're throwing actually a lot back to Mapua. The engineers you're trying to develop engineers, but why is it, how do we move from kind of I'm going to say, a worker drone mentality, doing the task ahead, looking at it as ABC, to the place where we can create businesses with the technology? I mean, how do we move from that? Like, for example, designers, right? One of our problems is actually finding coders who can imagine something that hasn't been created yet. How do you encourage entrepreneurship?
Sure. Let's get right to the end game there.
Oh.
Although there's quite a few things that need to be considered, like our science and math culture is way down the list relative to other countries. But if you look at that spectrum of things that we should do, you need to start there. We don't have that culture yet that is competitive enough. But let's go down to the other side. We are taught a lot of good theories at the university level. However, to take that knowledge, understanding theory, and to design products, there is that wide gap of knowing how to design things. What is clearly missing in our educational system, especially in engineering, is that there's no such thing as design classes. Now, if you couple that also with lack of research where things actually happen if there is a lab or a laboratory, we have a big problem there. But taking concepts, mathematics, theories to design is a very, very difficult process. Unless we teach our engineers in the engineering programs to know how to do that, their next job will be, there's no such job as you think of theories. There's no such thing. At the end of the day, we need to do something in the industry once we're out of school, but that design process is largely not there.
Interesting, Manny. So he comes at it from the engineering perspective and what the engineer needs to do to become an entrepreneur. On your end, you're a courageous businessman who finds opportunities and then you create the business for these opportunities for an entrepreneur, for the budding entrepreneurs who are there. How do you recognize opportunities step by step? I guess, how do you decide? How do you pull together? I think I'm asking for your formula for success.
Well, I guess our starting point would be just from the perspective of the PLDT group, right? So we're a telco. So I believe we're only one of 4 major players that can promote a true IT creative economy for this country. So as a telco, we're the pipes. But we don't want to be just the dumb pipes. The advantage is that the pipes are getting bigger and bigger and bigger by the day, no? So you're hearing wired triple plays with capacity now of up to 200 megabits, and one day we will see 1 gigabit, which will allow you to download a 2-hour movie in 30 seconds. Could you believe that? And that will happen as well in the mobile space, in the cellular space. I think Japan is leading the effort in terms of, what they call the LTE Advance, which will move up the speed to 200 megabits. So as a telco, we need to build the infrastructure, and in due course, hopefully it will encourage our people to adapt to it and then use it and be more open to the applications of technology to their daily lives. No? But then, as Dado said, we need the help of the academic community in order to focus as well on technology and the sciences. No? Number 3, the government has got to step in precisely to encourage the development of engineers. Now, what I think where the neck of woods of Dado in San Jose, Silicon Valley, is something I think if we can recreate that here, I think amongst all the universities, regrettably, I think La Salle is ahead of everybody else in developing the Technopark in Calamba or somewhere in Laguna, no? And I think that's a wonderful step forward in order to precisely instill amongst our young the thinking, the out-of-the-box thinking. No? And then if we could create, the financial community has got to step in as well by providing the money that the United States community has known. So it's an ecosystem that's got to be built. And it's got to be built deliberately.
A line of questions from the back. Please, your name and your question. To
We
whom?
actually already have a lot of questions. People
Yes.
are already lining up behind me. Mike, nasan ka? Sorry,
Nandito
maliit
ako.
ka. Ayun. Sorry
Maliit
na.
agad.
Oo, maliit agad.
Ayan.
Ako
31
muna
na
may
ako, mukha
question
lang
lang
akong
ako
fetus.
dito. Okay? We have a question from Phoebe. O ito,
Okay.
Phoebe, kilalanin mo mga pinagtatanungan mo, ha? No pressure. Ang maling tanong, pinuputulan ng paa. Okay? Pero no pressure at all. Okay?
Naging baldado pa bigla.
No, but kidding aside, Phoebe over here is from what magazine?
From techinasia.com.
From techinasia.com. And Phoebe over here has a question for Engineer Dado.
Yeah, I can go with Engineer Dado and Sir MVP. I just want to know your insights about how the Philippine tech startup community is doing and how it can be improved.
How is the scene of Philippine startup companies here? Anyone? MVP?
Startup, the Philippine startup scene. Actually, let's toss it to Manny first because he has idea space.
Yes, it's a good start for Idea Space.
Yes.
We've had, I believe, the first round of competition, which was last year, produced about 400 applicants, and we've whittled it down to 10 finalists, which we're supporting now. No? So they've started their process, and there've been some funding, some mentoring being done by Idea Space. In this year's competition, we've received about more than 600 applications for Idea Space, and we're down to about 50. So the number is increasing. So I think it's a useful start in terms of trying to generate applications on the internet that can be distinctly Filipino.
Dado, you have PhilDev. On your end, how would you gauge the startup scene in the Philippines?
Right now, it's a fairly basic ecosystem that we have. And I don't want to advertise PhilDev here, but in March, we will have our very, very first symposium on innovation and entrepreneurship. We did a little bit of research last year about the state of this ecosystem in innovation and entrepreneurship. It's really basic. And it covers not only the entrepreneurs, but also the venture capitalists. The practices are still in, I would say, development on both sides. I did review in one experiment in Cebu where we co-sponsored Hack to Hatch. We did review a few business plans, and very quickly you can see that there are some really common but unfortunately sort of like the things that you don't want to do as an entrepreneur. And so it needs to be developed. And also in March, we will have workshops on success factors for startups. We're going to bring in 2 lecturers from Silicon Valley and apply the principles in these successes of startups coming from there to here. We will bring in, unfortunately, a very limited number, about 300 students, 50 professors, and some entrepreneurs. And so for the very first time, we will unveil this kind of, I would say, teaching so that we can hopefully lift up the quality level of this ecosystem in entrepreneurship here.
Online, you can look at Philippine Startup Report. It's a report that was done by Ron Hose, who's an American who's moved to the Philippines, and I think his representative, one of them, Beryl Lee, will be speaking later. Next question.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Phoebe, for your wonderful question. That's right, no?
Ayan.
Buksan nyo lang yung mga entrepreneur magazine sa US,
That's right.
yung mga Inc. magazine. Lahat ang mga star doon, start-up. So thank you very much for enlightening us with that.
Yes.
Pero Mike, mukhang may question ka dyan.
Dito tayo sa satellite studio.
Okay,
Napakalayo
dyan.
ng Halika, Iho. Okay, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Kevin. Do I hold the mic? What do I do with this?
Yeah, of course, you hold it.
Right, okay. Hi. This question addressed to everyone on stage. I'm Kevin. I was from UP, and right now I'm working with, I'm on the design team of Caliber, one of the startups here in the Philippines. And my question is more targeted towards Dado, actually. I'm from UP, and before I joined Caliber, I exited prematurely to join a startup. And what I found, why I did this was because I found that large institutions like UP and large universities have a certain resistance to this new culture that's emerging, hacker culture, startup culture, and there isn't really a place for it yet, education-wise. My question really is, from your perspective as an engineer or as, a giant in that industry, how would you imagine creating a space for that, a space to cultivate hacker entrepreneur culture? Would it be a change of the curriculum? Would it be mentorship? Would it be more hackathons or dev challenges? How would you imagine it turning, like you were saying earlier, the Philippines, or cultivating a Silicon Valley here in the Philippines?
Maria, can you translate that for me because I had the hardest time?
It's hard to hear it, but let me see if I got the question right. How can you accommodate the hacker culture in a startup? Is that right? Or in mainstream organizations?
Less, not a startup per se, as an educational paradigm, let's say in a university.
Oh,
right?
I see.
Or how would you cultivate that culture of innovation, of the hacker culture, essentially, that is so proliferant
Okay.
in Silicon
Choice
Valley?
for both of you. This is-
I mean, how would you go, especially with idea space, right? How would you go about building that? How do you imagine it?
So, in summary, how do you build a culture of innovation? For both gentlemen. Go, Dada.
Yeah, of course. Innovation is a very, very big word, actually. It starts with the basic requirement of your knowledge in science and engineering. It's hard to innovate when you are not as well trained in those fields in the first place. And so you have to have that minimum requirement that you can actually work around concepts, theories, put it all together, and design something. And so you can see why I mentioned earlier the need to be able to know how to design based on fundamental concepts and theories. But that is largely missing. So that's my first answer to how can we innovate. The other thing, of course, is there is this practice called reverse engineering, and it is a valid engineering discipline. If you can take a product and tear it down and understand how it is designed, you are halfway there. The other thing is, when you innovate, you have to have a target idea on where you want to be, and where you want to be is most likely come up with a product. One thing that I had observed here is that if you want to access global markets, it's a very, very difficult thing to do here. Because how do you actually understand global markets? But if you have something that can serve the local markets, it's a lot easier. And just understand, however, that if you're looking for exponential growth, I suspect that you will struggle in the beginning, and then if you keep at it, you may be able to develop that business. And so basically, that innovation idea, you need to be aware that you have to have some basic requirements in your talent in science and engineering, or let's just say engineering. And then, of course, understanding your target market. I have seen a lot of startups, even in Silicon Valley, where, the classic expression of putting the cart before the horse, or a solution looking for a problem. And that happens all the time. I've seen that here too. So it's not just, innovation is not just about engineering. It is about, when you say the word innovation, it involves the idea of a product right away.
Manny, you run large organizations. How do you create a culture of innovation? How are you steering these large ships?
Well, I think it's difficult given our history as well, and and a number of constraints. But I think what you do need is a nurturing and encouraging environment, precisely to move the country in that direction. As I mentioned earlier, the telcos have got to be there to provide the platforms needed by the youth to be internet savvy. So it is PLDT's job to provide the latest forms of infra and technology to allow the youth precisely to access the internet and use it, and inculcate the awareness and the knowledge of the internet. The academic community has got to be there as well in terms of biasing education towards science and IT, and at the same time to open the minds of our people into a less traditional mode of thinking. We need that. We need the academic community as well to educate the youth, I think, more properly towards the real world. And the financial community, including the telcos, have got to step in to provide the financing for these startups in whatever form, angel fund, etc., so that they have the appropriate funding for their ventures and the mentoring. A number of the finalists we saw don't even know how to set up corporations, don't even know how to manage and set up their organizations. So mentoring has got to be done as well. And then, of course, government has got to make a decision, not only academic sphere, but also in terms of, again, encouraging people to say, the future of this country is really IT. We have to say that. We have to say that to our people.
Okay. Last question.
Yan
Last
po.
question for
Dito po, Ma'am.
Dado is leaving.
Yes, dito po Ma'am Reza and Sir Dado and MVP. Nandito po kami sa may bandang left side nyo po, from there. Dito po. Magtatanong po si Ivy. From what school are you?
I'm from University of Rizal System, Antipolo Campus.
Okay, what's your question?
A question ko lang po sa inyo, sir. We will be graduating 2 to 3 years from now. What will be the attitudes we need to acquire in able to succeed?
Advice. What
Thank you, Ivy.
attitudes do they need to acquire in order to succeed? What attitudes? Actually, it's like advice.
Attitudes, I guess. Okay, again, this is in the context of technology, and you have to come from that background of having studied or are still studying engineering. engineering is a very difficult, I would say, career. One, therefore, is you cannot give up. Because coming up with a solution, it may take you days, months, and so on before you finally can solve that design problem. If you give up right away, then you're done. And what that means, therefore, is that you probably would have to look for a different career. It is just that hard. You know, there were times in the past where I bring my design notebook with me on the side of on the bed table, and simply because, you know, I have this bad habit of waking up early in the morning and I think about the design right away and I sweat because there's a block or a section of the design that I thought I didn't do right. So I open it up and so on. So I guess that is just an example of a dedication or not giving up. Another example was when I was in college at Mapua. The typical technical books have all these problem sets, either in the back of the book or back of the chapter. And I made sure in all the technical courses that I took, I solved all of those problems in the textbook, however many they are. But you know, you have to really like it. And if you like it, most likely you do not give up. You know, solving all of those problems twice, once during the semester or quarter, and then before finals, you really have to be either crazy or whatever, but you know, you have to develop that liking to do the hard things. I would say that that's the number one attitude you have. And then there's a lot of these ancillary things, but I would say that's number one.
Dado has to leave, so can I just give you last words? Your final words for 7,000 students from 85 universities.
Okay, if you do it right, I would say that there is no profession in my mind, now I am probably biased, that is so satisfactory in one's career. Solving a tough problem to design something is really, really hard, and if you can do it, do it.
Fantastic.
All right, thank you very much, Engineer Dado. But if you could just allow me.
Ayan. Thank you, Sir Engineer Dado. Ayan.
Manny says he can stay a little bit longer so he can take more
Yes,
questions.
marami
Thank you
pa
very
pong
much.
tanong.
Mike, meron lang ako here nakapila. Actually, mahaba ang pila ko dito, but we'll try to entertain just a few more questions.
Yes, then
Hopefully.
meron pa rin dito.
Okay. Very specific question, actually. We have with us here Jerome McQueen, who has a question.
Hi, my name is Jerome McEwen. I've been in Philippines since 2009 as a foreign investor, also a business owner. And earlier it was mentioned that foreign investment was one of the 3 ways to take the Philippines from a developing country to a developed country. However, as a business owner, I found that it's not very easy to access the local budding entrepreneurs. For example, if you just walk into a college or a high school and you say, hi, I'm looking for students, they'll say, oh, you want OJT? And they'll try and get you 2 students to work in your office for free, which is nice, but that's not exactly what I'm looking for. How do foreign investors gain access to local budding entrepreneurs?
How do local investors gain access to local budding entrepreneurs? He's saying he can't reach the entrepreneurs.
How can local businesses
Foreign-
access local
Foreign,
entrepreneurs?
yes. Jerome over here.
People who want to invest. So to get this right, people who want to invest in local entrepreneurs, right? Foreign investors who want to invest in local entrepreneurs in the Philippines.
More specifically, I don't know, my Tagalog's not so good, pero yung mga foreign investor, ano, kailan pwedeng ma-access yung local young entrepreneurs, yung mga student?
Looking for talents, maybe? In local.
Necessarily, and this is not to find people to necessarily work for you for free, but instead to find people who have, you want to partner with the youth, and you want to find, for example, products that are ready to export that may not be discovered. So if you don't have a big name in the Philippines, if you're a foreign company without a really big name, it's not easy to walk into a school and get access to the people that may be overlooked and may have good ideas.
Well, I think in terms of, I don't know if I understand your question fully, no, but in terms of looking for local businesses and local businessmen, there are several layers. No? You have the most visible are the public companies that are listed on the exchange. They're all manifested. There must be some data available from the exchange that enables you to identify which companies you'd like to invest in, setting aside whatever constraints there might be in terms of laws and regulations, say, in terms of foreign ownership. Then there must be private companies whose data are available from our Securities Exchange Commission. The least visible are the private, the so-called private entrepreneurs, no? Especially the young and budding technopreneurs, so to speak. No? So they still are quite hidden from radar, and they should be at some point manifest themselves as we're here, invest in us as well. No? Part of our job at PLDT is to precisely create that kind of new ecology, business ecology in this country, and to make them more visible. And we're trying to create a momentum in that space. I think it will take a bit of time, but if we do have even moderate successes amongst these people we're supporting by idea space, then hopefully it could serve as a model for our future technopreneurs to become successful, even moderately on the world stage. No? As you know, the internet has an open architecture, so hopefully you could find those young entrepreneurs. No?
We'll take one more question from the audience and then a question from Twitter.
Opo.
There were many
Yes.
questions. Oh, no more questions from Twitter.
Opo. Dito po, ang question po mula po sa isang educator na merong education.
Sir, good afternoon. This is my question. My name is Enrique Albina from Pamantasan ng Cabuyao in Cabuyao, Laguna. My question is, what makes you decide to acquire unstable firm rather than establishing new business with your own brand?
Yan po.
Well, hindi naman totoo na lahat ng aming investments are ongoing companies, no? A number of them are actually startups. And the most outstanding example is Smart Communications, di ba? Wala yun dati, 1992, when we first invested in a very nascent company way back then. Smart was nowhere in sight, and look where it is today. A number of these ventures are actually quite new. A number of them are obviously operating companies, but because they're sort of broken, we felt that something could be done to fix them and make them more productive, more profitable. No?
And to close the session, Manny, what are last words? Words of advice, lessons you've learned.
I think I'd like to go back to that question of that lady
Please.
talking about success. No, I mean, even the world of the internet, it starts with an idea, it starts with a goal, it starts with a dream, and that's the essence. That's the kernel of a success. So, in other words, it starts with you, in each one of you. It doesn't start from anybody else except you, yourself. After all, what is success? Success is a dream translated into reality. Di ba? You have to dream, and it's up to you whether you want to dream small or you want to dream big. And as a corollary to that, don't be afraid to fail. You're young enough to fail. telling that to our people. Go ahead and do it. Just do it. And let's see how it works out.
Fantastic. So you've heard from very successful entrepreneurs running large companies now. There's echoing what Manny said in terms of being afraid, right? The last thing is actually not to be afraid, and that you cannot be successful until you fail. There's a great Samuel Beckett quote, ever tried, ever failed, no matter, try again, fail better. And then in the internet age, that quote was shortened. Fail fast, fail forward, fail better. Internet, okay, I'll shut up now. Please, let's give a hand of applause to Manny Pangilinan. Thank you so much.
Ayan.
Thank you very much,
Thank you
also
very
Ms.
much.
Maria Ressa, for helping us moderate. Right now, we want to invite you to kindly still stay.
Yes.
If we could just ask you to please stay as we call on Sir Joey Concepcion for a little photo op. Basta Pinoy,
Nako,
mahilig sa photos.
Sir MVP, thank you very much. Ma'am Maria Ressa, thank you very much po. Thank you so much. Ayan po, we'd like to invite Sir Joey and
For a
the team
little-
of Go Negosyo and our special guest for picture taking. Ayan po, magpapapicture po muna sila. Tama po ang sinabi ng Biblia, where 2 or 3 are gathered, there is picture taking.
Ayan. Yan ang nangyayari.
Yan po ang napakaganda sa Pilipino. Minsan kahit na nasasalanta na tayo, nagsiselfie pa tayo.
At this point, we'd
Oh,
like to
may
also
kaibigan
call our
ako.
other friends
Yes.
from PLDT as well, Ms. Kat Abelarde, Sir Gabby Cuy, Sir Paulie Nazareno, of course, Sir Eric
Alberto, of course.
and Sir Mon Lopez to kindly also join us here on stage for a little photo op.